Welcome to Catholic Courses. I am Joseph Pearce, visiting fellow and writer-in-residence at Thomas More College in New Hampshire, and I will be a professor for this course on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are publishing phenomena, two of the most successful books of the 20th century. Since its publication in the 1950s, The Lord of the Rings has sold in excess of 150 million copies. The Hobbit, on the other hand, since its publication in the 1930s, has sold in excess of 100 million copies. These books literally are amongst the most successful written in the last 100 years. And this has been confirmed not merely in sales, but in numerous opinion polls over the past 15 years in particular. In a major poll in the UK in 1998, The Lord of the Rings emerged as the greatest book of the century, winning 20% more votes than its nearest rival, George Orwell's 1984. In 104 out of 105 stores of a major book-selling chain in England, all but one, The Lord of the Rings emerged victorious. And I suppose in this day and age, the greatest accolade one could get is to be voted the best book of the millennium by Amazon.com customers, signalling The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit's conquest of the final frontier of cyberspace. And of course, Peter Jackson's films are phenomenally successful. The three films of The Lord of the Rings, the films of The Hobbit, have been amongst the most popular films ever made. The Hobbit films are a follow-up, of course, to the success of those films of The Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is much more than a simple children's story at its deepest level of meaning, and great children's literature always has a deep level of meaning. The Hobbit is a pilgrimage of grace in which its protagonist, Bilbo Baggins, becomes grown up in the most important sense, which is the growth in wisdom and virtue. There's been controversy about whether a children's story should show so much violence and be so scary. And this has been one of the criticisms of Peter Jackson's films of The Hobbit. What I would say is actually what is much more important is that the Christian dimension is not lost in those films, because it's the morality of the films. The book is scary. The Hobbit is a scary book. Life is scary. There are real life monsters in life. There are demons, there are dragons. It's just as well that our children know about these. The important thing is they need to know that demons are evil, the angels are good, and that correct morality needs to be prevalent and to the forefront. If Peter Jackson's films are scary, but that morality is there, fine. If they're scary and the morality is lost, there's the problem. Throughout the course of his adventure, and every pilgrimage is an adventure, the Hobbit develops the habit of virtue and grows in sanctity. Thus, the Hobbit illustrates the priceless truth that we only become wise men, which is to say Homo sapiens, wise men, when we realize that we are pilgrims on a purposeful journey through life, which is to say that we are Homo viator. We are men on a journey. Now, we need to get this understanding of things correct right from the beginning in any description of the deeper meaning of The Hobbit, because Tolkien understands that human beings are not merely Homo sapiens, not merely wise men, but also Homo viator. It's this understanding of humanity which animates all of Tolkien's work. If we don't understand this, we will not understand anything about the deeper meaning of The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. Homo sapiens is a misnomer. It's the wrong name, because in fact it's a name given to us by the supercilious Enlightenment, where we decide that we are wise. In the past, man was ignorant, but now we are Homo sapiens, we are wise. Now, wisdom, of course, is a virtue. Wisdom has to be attained. It's not something that's genetic. So it's a misunderstanding. Many so-called Homo sapiens are anything but wise. So what we understand, there's two ways of understanding what humanity is. It's much more useful to understanding the purpose of morality in Tolkien. We are either Homo viator, we are on a journey. In other words, our purpose in life is we are born, We go through life, and the purpose of life is to get to heaven, to be with God in heaven, and to live a life of virtue and to struggle against evil, to fall and yet through grace to rise again, to carry on that journey until the very end. That is a Christian understanding of who we are, Homo viator, man on a journey. But the modern secular fundamentalist understanding of who we are is what might be called Homo superbus. Superbus from the sin of superbia, the sin of pride. And that understanding of humanity is that we're not on a journey, there is no wider purpose in life except me. It's about my living my life to maximize my own enjoyment of it, self-gratification. It's making ourselves the center of the cosmos. This view of life, if you like, is the view of life of the ascendant culture at the moment, the ascendant philosophy at the moment, the radical relativism. This is the culture that The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are at war with, that Tolkien is at war with, that his purpose is to show us, well, hold on for a second, what is it to be human? Now, we'll come to how much Bilbo Baggins is one of us in a moment. He may be a hobbit, but he's also one of us. What is it to be human? And to be human is to make progress in the spiritual life, in the life of virtue, on the journey to reach the goal. That is what being a human is. Homo superbus, from a Christian perspective, is a fantasy. We may believe we're the center of the cosmos, but we are not the center of the cosmos. The cosmos is bigger than we are, and we need to understand not just the truth that's within us. Life's not, I feel, therefore I am. It's about the truth that's beyond us, and we have to move towards that truth to grow in the space that that truth offers, which is why, and as we shall see, that the Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, is Homo viator. He's on a journey through life, and the people in the story and the creatures in the story that are not on that journey, that are refusing that journey, that are all for self-aggrandizement and self-gratification, they are Homo superbus. They suffer, in the context of The Hobbit, of the dragon sickness. And the dragon sickness is the sickness of Homo superbus, making ourselves dragons. Apart from the story's status as a children's Bildungsroman, which charts Bilbo's rite of passage from ignorance to wisdom and from bourgeois vice to heroic virtue, The Hobbit parallels The Lord of the Rings in the mystical suggestiveness of its treatment of divine providence, and serves as a moral commentary on the words of Christ from Matthew chapter 6 verse 21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So these three aspects is what we'll be looking at in greater detail over the next 8 lectures. In these aspects, it can truly be said of The Hobbit, as Tolkien said of The Lord of the Rings, that it is a fundamentally religious and Catholic work. We need to see from the beginning, as I said, we think about hobbits, they're a bit different from us. They live in a hole in the ground, they have furry feet, they're short. But Bilbo in The Hobbit and Frodo in The Lord of the Rings represent us. They are a mirror of every man, of all of us. And their journey, whether it's Frodo's journey to Mount Doom in The Lord of the Rings, or whether it's Bilbo's journey to the Lonely Mountain in The Hobbit, these mirror every man's journey through life, our journey through life. In other words, we need to see, if you like, ourselves following in the furry footsteps of Bilbo and Frodo, learning the lessons that they learn and coming to the destination that they reach. Tolkien wrote in his essay on fairy stories that the fairy story may be used as a mirror de l'homme, or a mirror of man, or as the mirror of scorn and pity towards man. In other words, we are meant to see ourselves reflected in the character of Bilbo Baggins, and our life reflected in his journey from the Shire to the Lonely Mountain and then back home to the Shire again.